Hi, welcome to the Mom Files, Moments of Motherhood podcast, a place where the hard things have room to exist without shame.
If you're a mom, you'll get realistic routines, gentle validation, and encouragement to try new things. We're here to be your village, a judgment-free zone for modern motherhood. Take what fits for you and leave the rest.
We're happy you're here. Let's jump in.
Welcome back. I'm Aleea.
And I'm Hav.
This week, we're exploring gender disappointment, especially right when you're at your gender reveal, maybe even before, just because sometimes it doesn't match the picture you had in your head. And I think this is more common than we'd like to admit. And it doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It's just that you might been excited for what's to come in a different way. And so you're just grieving what you thought was going to be. And so let's kind of dive into it. I figured we'd start with why this can potentially happen. I know just to kind of start, one thing is like there's this, in the back of your mind, your expectation for your life, especially like I know for me, when it comes to when I was pregnant with Dash, I definitely imagined having a boy just because that's what I always imagined. But before we had found out, I constantly kept thinking like, okay, but what if it isn't? How am I going to feel about it? Things like that. And I was nervous. And I know you can definitely weigh in on this, Hav, because we were just talking about it. But I was nervous, like, if I have a girl, will I be a good girl mom? Like, can I do it? Like, I've always had a certain expectation in my head of what it would look like to potentially be, a boy mom. But what happens if it wasn't that way? And so there was definitely some of that. And so I think one thing that it can happen is just that subconscious expectation. And just, imagine, kind of like daydreaming. We all have future plans of what we think life is going to look like. Of course, they're constantly changing, but that's definitely something. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, it's kind of, I know this is like side, but it's like the same thing as like what you imagine your wedding to be or what you imagine your career to be or whatever. And I think we all go through moments where like when those aren't what we expected, there's a little bit of disappointment or just like even fear about it. And I can go deeper into, I feel like with Azzy, it was like, there were so many different like aspects of thinking about gender, but that was a big one for me. I definitely, ever since even I was like a young girl and I wanted to have children, I thought I was going to have a boy. And I think that comes too from like being raised with boys and like feeling protected by my older brothers. And I just wanted that. It just felt right. So it definitely was one of those things where like I expected to have a boy. And those expectations, obviously, at a girl. So that was different for me. And I would say disappointment could also be kind of like go in tandem with like fear. Like you said, of not being a good girl mom and things like that. And I can go deeper into like all my thoughts on that. But another thing that I know we talk about is like, then you have your expectations, but then you have family expectations or cultural expectations. And I know that wasn't really for me, but I know some cultures and some families, if you don't have a boy first, there's that like, you're not carrying on the family legacy or the family name, stuff like that, which can be really hard for some people. And just like the vocalization from external factors about that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up like that pressure, just because I definitely didn't experience it either, but I know there's definitely a lot of people out there that do have that, and it can be really hard because, again, that is something that's just a subconscious expectation that you don't even anticipate. It's not like I think, people, like even if you don't have the first boy, you're still happy, but yeah, there's definitely that moment of like letting down other people, things like that. Like it's just hard because you don't realize sometimes the other things that can kind of compound on, especially over the years. But now too, I think social media also plays a big role just because you see the big elaborate reactions in these perfect moments. And then maybe you don't have that. And then you're like, something's wrong with me, blah, blah, blah. But as we've talked about, sometimes social media is very staged.
Yeah.
Or you can think about the responses on social media that you get that bad reaction or the someone that maybe didn't love what they got right then and everyone's just attacking them. And I understand that too. Yeah, like, oh, you aren't happy that you're
and I'm a bad mom. Like you should just be happy you have a healthy baby. Absolutely. I hear it all the time. And I've actually had a lot of conversations with friends and even coworkers where I'm like, when I see videos like this, depending on how bad the reaction.
There's certain reactions that you're like, ooh, red flag. But
But if it's like they're not jumping up and down in excitement and people are like, oh, that's like, she should just be happy or he should just be happy. I'm like, we all have expectations. And I think that was one thing that somebody in my life recently had had a baby, and they were like, oh, I don't care what it is. And I did that too. I don't care what it is as long as it's happy, healthy. Me and my wife, we don't care.
Right.
And then the wife was a little disappointed that they were having a boy. She was definitely like thought she was going to be a girl mom. And she was a little disappointed. And I remember talking to the husband and him being like, I was disappointed that she was disappointed. And I was like, let her have her feelings. Like, it's, one of those things where when she was raised with girls, she was a girly girl growing up. There were a lot of things that went into it. And I was like, she's probably just scared. She doesn't know what to do with a boy.
And it's a raw reaction. People don't like, it's one of those things, we don't mean to have hurtful feelings, but it's what we're experiencing. And it's like you said, she might have been scared, and I guarantee you she's the best boy mom ever, but in those moments, it's like we're allowed to feel a little disappointed, especially because like you said, I'm sure she's had an image her entire life of what, she thought it would be. She was just having a moment, and it doesn't mean you're not happy. It's like what we talked about. There's tons of dual emotions, but yeah, I think it's funny that it's almost seen wrong to have like a raw, like it's just a sudden emotion. Like you can't control that.
And I think too, like you put a good point on social media is like, I think a lot of us are pressured to have those big moments and then being scared of having our actual like raw emotions about it. I mean, I can go a little deeper because now I have 2 gender reveal experiences, but I know with Azzy, like I said, I wanted a boy. I thought I was going to have a boy. I wanted a boy and then a girl. That was just my hope and dream that my daughter would feel protected by her older brother like I did. And but at the same time, my husband comes from, his family's all boys. So we were honestly a little scared that we wouldn't be able to not be able to, but yeah, we wouldn't have boys. Cause then there's also that the families that keep trying to have a different gender and then they have all the same gender. And then that's like a whole nother level of disappointment. And do you keep whatever, not even diving into that. But I know a lot of his family was just very hopeful that it would be a girl because they were just like, I just genuinely don't know if you guys will be able to have a girl.
Yeah, they wanted something different.
Yeah, and my family's split. We have 4 boys, 4 girls. So I was like, I had never thought about it that way. I was like, we're just going to have a boy and a girl. We're going to be fine. But being around them and then being like, I just I hope it's a girl. And I don't think for the longest I was like, what, if I have a boy, if I have a girl, healthy baby, healthy life, right? And I think when we did the reveal, I actually didn't want to do a reveal. I wanted it private. I'm happy we did it and it was really fun. I think you can see in the videos, I was genuinely excited to have a girl because I was like, thank God we can have a girl. But I think it was afterwards that it hit me that I was scared of having a girl. It wasn't just my expectation that I had a boy that was going to protect the girl. I genuinely did not think I was going to be able to be a girl mom. I was like, what? I never did Disney princesses. I didn't play with Barbies. I didn't own a Barbie growing up.
Right.
I played with my friends' dolls and stuff, but I didn't have that. I didn't have any of that. So I was like, how do let's say, and I'm not saying all girls are like Barbie girls, right? But let's say, and mine is, let's say that she's super girly and all these things. And I don't remember who I'm sure I talked to you about it. And I was just like, I don't know what to do. How do I don't know. And I do struggle with that. Azzy will be like, wear a dress. And I'm like, I don't want to wear a dress. And she's very girly, but I do makeup. So she loves to do makeup with me. There's a lot of things that go into it. But yeah, I was definitely fearful of, or also the things about being a girl when I grew up that I was, I was
right there. That was always my fear of having a girl. It's not so much that I was afraid. It's the things that come with being a girl, the things we fear about when we get older, the things we go through when you get to teen years.
Right.
Those are the things I was like, oh, great. So I get that fear.
Well, it wasn't even just the don't get me started on, we all know the things that women are harping about all the time that we have to deal with. But it's also the not feeling like I could speak up in a group. Thankfully, I mean, And that's what I was determined when I found out I had a girl. I said, she's going to be strong. She's going to be loud. And don't be upset when she is. And I tell people to remind me all the time when she is loud and she argues back with me, as long as it's respectful, remind me that this is what I wanted, because I did not want to raise a girl who was afraid of speaking up. And I was afraid of speaking up when I was little.
And it's funny, just the side note, that's why I laugh when you're like, I was thinking boy, girl, protective older brother. I'm like, well, luckily you have the best protective old, like, you got it. It's just funny because in your mind you were thinking another way, but I'm like, Azzy is going to be a very good big sister.
Already so protective of her baby brother. And that's the thing. And there's no saying that brother protect her either, which is something that I've like come to just like know in my head. But 100%, I'm like, honestly, maybe it's like now I'm like, maybe it's good that we have her.
Right. It's one of those reminders that it's so hard in the moment to see, the change. But then once you happen, you're like, oh, this is how it was supposed to be. Like you always say, there's like the universe does it for a reason. And sometimes it's hard to understand that reason until. But I will say, just to backtrack, I'm so glad when you brought up, when you did the in public gender reveal. That's why I didn't do a gender reveal. I was so scared of how I would respond and everyone be like mad at me that I responded poorly, because I cannot not show my emotions. And it sucks because you're like, it sucks that that's even like a thinking. Like you can't even experience a moment because you're afraid of having human emotions.
Well, I'll say I protected myself with that as much as I could. I didn't we had like is it a boy? Is it a girl? I didn't wear a specific color. I didn't put on a band. People kept asking me and I literally was like, I'm not answering that question. Like you're not going to get the answer out of me. We will see my reaction when I get there. Like, I honestly don't think I would have been, and I wasn't, because we found out we were having a girl and I wanted a boy. So, but it was like more so the reactions of everybody else, and everybody was so happy.
And you know what? And you were still happy.
I was happy. I was very happy.
So it's kind of funny where even when we think we won't respond to a certain way, you might surprise yourself.
Yeah. And I mean, once I got past like the fear of it, I think the whole pregnancy I was kind of worried. But then once she got here, it was like whatever. And I think it's what you said about like the universe brings you what you need. I have said a million times over, I am so thankful I had a girl first. I think it healed a lot of childhood trauma. I think I taught myself that I can be a good mom regardless. I also have had so much fun watching her being her spunky little... I mean, like, she's obsessed with princesses, but if you call her a princess, she's like, I'm not a princess, I'm Azzy. And I'm like, dang right you are. Like, that's my girl. You go wear your princess and you dress up and you put on your makeup, but as soon as somebody tests you, that's when you draw the line. And I think it's been really important for me to see that, like, that's what I've instilled in, well, me and Tony, but that's what we're instilling in her. And it didn't matter that that's not how I was as a kid.
And it's crazy because I'm like, you're such a good girl mom and you're so fitting. And what's crazy is I know in like 6 months, I'm going to say the exact same thing about you being a boy mom. So it's like, definitely don't be hard on yourselves because it is so true. But I think you make a good point that it's not about the baby. It's just about, the story that we kind of had planned for ourselves in our heads. And it doesn't mean that we're not happy to have it change because you were very much happy. It just can be hard to embrace at first. So I think let's kind of dive into, tips on like if you are experiencing this, like some ways that might help you either go through the motions, things like that. And then we will also in a little bit also just share some tips if you're trying to support someone, because I think both things are important.
I think that's a great point. Just like sidetracking really quick. Well, not sidetracking, but we like have a friend who like and it's the same kind of thing. It's more of a fear thing and figuring out how to support without like being like your feelings aren't valid. And I know like I've told people like if this baby wasn't a boy, I was going to be disappointed. There was my expectation, like this was our last baby. I want a boy. And on like the cultural thing, we never talked, like there was never a cultural like you need to have a boy. But the excitement and like the raw, like everybody's like, oh, a boy, like, and Tony being like, my son, like there is like, that's when you realize like there is a little bit of that. So I mean, like I was preparing people to be like, I'm going to be upset if it's not a boy. Like, I'm not going to hate the baby. I'm going to be happy.
Right. You're just going to have to go through the emotions.
And then I had exactly what I wanted. But then we had a friend who is a little disappointed. And like I said, more of a fear thing, and trying to support her through that in the same way. It's like, I feel you. because it's scary. But yeah, we can dive deeper into that. But I think that's a really good point and something that we should definitely talk about.
Yeah, let's start with like going through the emotions, because I think you did just kind of hit on that. Like, I think something is you have to let yourself feel it. You know, even if it's in private, I do think suppressing it makes it heavier. And you can just, it's where you can really sit down and separate your grief from your guilt, because I do think a lot of the times you're just grieving an idea. You're not rejecting your baby. And so I think when you do feel sad about it, you feel a lot of guilt towards it. But I don't think you need to, because I think you can kind of separate those two feelings.
Yeah.
So just remember that. And just know it's okay to not have viral worthy reactions. Like, it's okay and healthy if you have hard reactions, and just process that. So I definitely think you need to go through the emotions to start.
I think just off your social media, if you thought you were going to post on social media and you take those videos and you're like, I don't want people to see that, you don't have to post it. You can post pictures of the party and like not. There's a lot of things that we just need to remember, like, this is our life. And if we don't want it on social media, that's the joy of it, right? Like, we see all the good. You don't want to put what you perceive as bad on there, then don't put it on there.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point.
And I think, too, the recognizing your emotions is really important. I think sitting down and figuring out why you're feeling that way, because I think that was important for me, right? Like, figuring out, okay, I'm scared of having a girl. Why? And me realizing that a big part of it is that I didn't feel like I had a voice growing up, and like those certain things. And how can we make it so that we do our best? I don't think you can control everything with raising a child regardless. They are their own people. And I think what they say, something like, you're just helping build the path, but you're not directing it. You can't direct it. But thinking about, okay, what do I have in my power to make it so that she or he never feels the way that I felt, or whatever, in my power. And I think for me, that was really big. And that was when, I was so adamant with everybody. I was like, if she says no, she means no. If she says she wants something, she wants something. And people say that all the time. They're like, oh, Azzy knows what she wants. I'm like, so yeah, exactly. Don't second guess her. If she says that she doesn't want that, or she wants this, then don't ask her again. Are you sure you want this? She said what she said. Let her be.
She's not indecisive. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not going to make her be indecisive.
Right.
Because sure, at one point, I wasn't either. And now you ask me a question and I'm weighing like 50 million different possibilities in my head. Whereas I'm so grateful that she's like, nope, this is what I want. Whether it be food or shoes or colors, or whether she wants a hug or not. Like,
yeah, you are definitely reshaping in a way that what you didn't get. And I think, just to kind of add on to that, is I think you can reshape and also rebuild the idea that you had. So like, it can be so hard, like you said, like you had a certain vision. Once it maybe gets changed, or even like however it might happen, I think it can help to shift from like, oh, I'm not getting that, to like, you're excited to now experience this new thing. So it's just, I think that's something else, is remind yourself that, yeah, you might not be experiencing the storyline you had, but now it's time you can make a new storyline with a new vision of what your life will look like. So I think when you are sitting and feeling your feelings, it's also a nice time after to not just think negatively, but also to look at like all the exciting things that can come, just because I think you might surprise yourself, all the pros.
yeah.
Because both things have both sides, both genders, both everything has pros and cons. So
yeah. And honestly, one thing I've learned is gender literally doesn't matter. As he is, like, the things that she plays with, the attitude that she has, the way she's like, I'm like, that is what I thought that I needed a boy for, right? To protect little sibling. And like Aleea said earlier, she's going to be the most protective, caring her sibling. Like, I am getting what I wanted.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. You are getting what you wanted, just in a different shape.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the writing down with your notes, like, I think living in that moment and writing down the negative things, right? Like what you're afraid of. And then like Aleea said, like making a pro con, right? Like so make your con list and then think about the positives of it, or maybe how even like, is that actually going to be an issue, or is that just society telling me it's going to be an issue?
And like something just in your head. Yeah. Like maybe it's not a con.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have a podcast and a pile of laundry staring you down? Are you questioning your life choices during nap time or working at midnight with one eye open and 3 tabs running?
Yeah, same. We've lived that chaos. Hey, still living it. That's why we offer podcast editing and post-production services for the moms who have things to say, but zero time to do all the things. Let us help you get your voice out there without losing your mind, your message, or your weekend.
Think less burnout, more snuggles. Less tech stress, more talking to your audience in peace. Interested? Tap the link in the description to learn more. Plus, we offer free discovery calls, no pressure, just real talk to see if we vibe.
Let's make podcasting easier because you're already doing enough.
Yeah, and I think with that, how then can we, I think that leads us, how can we support someone who's feeling it? I think you can maybe help a little more with this just because I know you said one of our friends, you're kind of going through it. Is there any advice you have that maybe you've done already or?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that I always say, and we said already, is validate the feelings.
Yeah.
I think it's helpful for me because I kind of did go through it, right? And being, I don't even want to say disappointed, but it was disappointment and being scared and doing that. But also, so like validate the feelings. I understand you, and not just being like, oh, you're going to be a good mom regardless.
Right.
I think that's one of the things where you're like, okay, like that might not necessarily be the fear of I'm going to be a good mom. Great. I can raise a child. I can wipe their butt. I can feed them. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think it's kind of just been like trying to talk through those things. Like, okay, what are you afraid of? Okay, this is what I've seen you already do to change that for you, and you're already conscious of it. And I think just like validating, like you're conscious of it. If you're conscious of it, then you can make conscious decisions to try to avoid that. And then also reminding nobody's perfect. We're not perfect. Our parents weren't perfect. We want to do better than they did. Obviously, that's like the goal, right? But to not put so much pressure. So I think just supporting and then being like, I'm here for you. And when you go through the different stages, like stuff like that. But yeah, I think validating and then helping others see that like they're already doing better. They're already thinking about it, letting them talk it out through you. Some people don't like doing the notes. Like, okay, you tell me and then tell me, like here's what you can do. Here's how I can help you.
I really like that. And I like the validating because I do think words matter, especially like you said, when when it's how you say, like, I hated hearing like, well, you should just be grateful or you should just enjoy this time. And I know we've talked about that a lot, but like when you are experiencing those feelings, it's like you are grateful usually. You just also are still experiencing those other feelings. So I like validating them just because, as we've said a million times, both feelings can be true.
Mm-hmm.
And so just allowing them to sit in them because we don't want our friends to feel shame for feeling that way. We want to help them kind of get through it. So I love that. I don't have any other advice on that. Do you have any before we wrap up?
I mean, I think there's also the part of like, if it is like a real festering thing, maybe supporting them and encouraging them to go get help for them. Because I think at the end of the day, and for yourself too, for me too, it's like at the end of the day, all this stems from our fears for ourselves and what we went through or what we didn't get to do, and trying not to push that onto our kids, right? Like I feel like sometimes our fears, we get so fearful about it that we like push that fear onto our kids. And if that's gonna be a thing, maybe supporting them and going to see a therapist or getting further help.
Yeah, especially if you aren't, if you are pregnant or, they are deep in pregnancy, because the thing is postpartum, those hormones aren't going to make it better. So this is definitely a time. And like we said, once they have their baby, who knows how you're going to feel. But I do think having a therapist can be great just to help manage those emotions so they don't turn into something harder. Just because, postpartum's no joke. And honestly, pregnancy, people don't realize it, but I guess there's like it's like postpartum, but during pregnancy. Like it's like pregnancy depression. Like you can still get those feelings. So definitely don't discount them just because you think it's not valid. So with that, the child you get will shape you in ways that you can't predict, as we've already talked about. I mean, like we said, Hav wanted certain things and she got it, just maybe not in the exact way she imagined. And so expectations, they're human, and the feelings we have are normal, especially more normal than you think. So you're not a bad mom. You're human, and you're adjusting to your new reality, especially one that, just wasn't in, that you weren't imagining. So Hav, do you have any other final thoughts?
I think I would just say the gender disappointment and going through this in pregnancy is great practice for all of parenthood. As we know, like all the milestones, all the different stages, all the things, all the expectations we have for our kids, there are expectations. They're not reality, unfortunately. And our kids are people of their own. They're going to do what they are going to do.
Starting from the beginning.
Don't get me started. Started from day one. So just remember, like, this is a good time to practice letting things go as much as possible. Now, again, we say, we're not saying like get over it, anything like that, feel it. But just remember, like, if we can control life, then none of this would be an issue.
Right. Yeah. Your feelings are valid, but like you also got dealt new cards, so you'll have to learn to play with them. So with that said, stay with us next week. We're diving into, we've talked about this a little bit, but we want to dive more into it, is feeling guilty for not enjoying pregnancy, especially since we're always told it's supposed to be the best time in our lives, we're glowing, but it's just not always the case. So we will look forward to chatting with you then about that. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for sharing your time with us today. We're so glad you're part of this messy, beautiful village.
If this episode made you laugh, cry, or feel just a little more human, pass it on to a mom friend who needs it too. And hey, if you haven't already, hit subscribe and leave us a review. It helps more moms find the show and gives us a tiny dopamine hit. Let's be real.
Until next week, keep the kids alive and your coffee hot, or at least reheated once.